Hello, this is pitch feedback in Project and Portfolio 5. My name is Sean Curry, and this is Chronos the Turtle. So it's a 2D side-scroller that's similar to Sonic the Hedgehog, but the player slows down time rather than simply speeding up the player himself. So what does the player do? All levels will be a 2D side-scroller similar to how Sonic the Hedgehog works. Players move from left to right of the screen to control the screen to move left so the player can traverse from the beginning of the level to the end of the level. There will be all kinds of hidden collectibles throughout the levels, much like Sonic, much like how he collects his coins and they have burst opens or he can find a shield. But instead of, let's just say, Sonic's speed up shoes that make him faster, instead of that power up, it would be a slow down time longer power up, or other things that would revert more to his time control rather than, trying to speed up the player himself. And of course the main objective of any level is to reach the end and defeat whatever enemies are in the way, including bosses if necessary, and reach the end and move into the next level. As far as what the actual player will do to progress through the level, that means the main idea for the character here, what he does is slow down time rather than speed up, right? So the time slow ability that the player can use would be similar to, let's say, like Beautiful Joe. So when the player hits a button, unlike Sonic's ability to just go faster, it would rather make it seem like everything around the player is slowing down in time rather than just the player himself speeding up again. The objects on the map begin to move slow, making the character interact with the environment as if he were moving super fast, at least to the NPCs. And if you've ever played Beautiful Joe or even Braid, then you may have a good idea of how this would look. Braid's dynamics there were multiple ways to control time within that game. And I would even say Prince of Persia has a rewind ability that kind of makes everything look slow too. Assuming based on, they've made movies and multiple Prince of Persia's game, I'm hoping the people that have seen this have played it. And if you climb across a wall and fall suddenly, you press a button and time rewinds, right? Well, that slow motion effect is kind of what I'm going for here. Much like also still in Beautiful Joe, I think the idea of Beautiful Joe's quick jumps around when he uses his slow ability shows an example of how the slow down works on the enemies that makes it look like the player is actually moving quickly. I would also like to point out here in Beautiful Joe, you'll see here I pointed out the same clips. They tend to use a lot of the same clips when he's moving around. You'll see like his elbow out there. They have it multiple times, but the environment's moving so slow that it makes it look like he speeds up, and the player can't really tell. So that would make it easier for building the images for the level designs themselves. As far as how all this works, like most 2D side-scroller games, and most games when you think about it, the player's interactions with the game will obviously make the player's experience grow as they play more. So, of course, with increasing amounts of levels completed, they will become much more difficult. Like the image is shown, the level's progressions will also incorporate a change of scenery and try to help show in the scenery that things, I guess you could say, look more intense. So the players can not only feel the game getting harder, but it also looks like it's getting harder with the progression of the game. As far as the levels themselves go, you can see here a simple progression of difficulty in just the level itself. The player will encounter an enemy, do some platforming, and maybe fight two enemies instead of just one afterwards, making it a little bit more difficult. Then they'll find a puzzle that needs completion before continuing, or even a puzzle that maybe helps the player get to a secret item. Regardless, as the level progresses, the puzzles, platforming jumps, and battles with enemies become even harder until they reach towards the end of the level where they would see a boss and need to progress even further. As you can see, this is just a simple design for what I call level 1. As most games go, you can expect these level difficulties to become longer, with maybe more puzzles and more enemies together, or even harder objects and even harder platforms. The possibilities for level design here can literally be endless. And of course the bosses themselves. Usually just bosses deal with the type of... they tend to equate themselves with the type of level the player is in. For instance, a fire level would have a fire boss, an ice level would have an ice boss, and so on. What fun is a 2D side-scroller boss without a weakness, right? The player will need to find this weakness and exploit it. With the harder levels, the weaknesses will become harder to find or even harder to exploit. And just like the possibilities for level design, the designs and ideas for bosses can literally be endless as well. I do hope you've enjoyed my pitch for Chronos the Turtle, and truly believe that this could not only be a fun game to make, but an even more fun game to play. I tried to give as many examples of what we could do to implement as much as possible into this game. And I think the difficulty of making it for future classes wouldn't be too hard, but still quite the enjoyment of getting it all completed. Thank you for watching.